I have one little short piece on some ideas on Instagram.
Sure.
When you're.
You can either lead with it as we go through, or you can jump in whenever you think is appropriate, however you want.
Wait, why don't I go from here into the first one, Instagram? I'll tell that story, and then you jump into things. That way we don't have to go back and forth.
And I'm going to basically be telling people that this is, we're at the last module of the day. We're going to show you a bunch of tools, but we're not expecting you to follow everything that we're doing right
Just
now.
watch, and we'll go
Yep.
through a
This
couple.
is to watch and observe type.
streaming?
But she's doing it on Facebook. She's streaming your Facebook.
Yep, she can.
How did
Well-
she embed it?
No, just like what I did. Remember when I took that link and put it on Facebook, and it streams right on the page.
Right, I'm just saying, is she streaming it off the SMEM page or off her page?
That must be her SEM page.
Very cool.
Because I sent her, I invited her to the page.
Oh, okay.
And then she came on. And
Okay.
then she said she's been kind of on and off all day.
Yeah, she was at a meeting. I'm not going to start yet. We have 3 minutes.
No, I'm just saying.
Oh, it's on.
Or a lecture out there.
Oh, thank you. It's good to get feedback from the audience, while you're. Any audience questions? I'm asking for the online audience. Send it to Nemo Teams or into the chat. And do let us know. I'm getting the impression that we have occasional cutouts. Part of that was our fault. We didn't change batteries. You figure all the technology out, and batteries are what thwart you. So we shouldn't drop a mic anywhere here. But if you do hear something, do type it into the chat stream right away, because we'll try to correct it. Don't even.
She's laughing at you.
Okay. So we're going to talk now about here's a reminder, those who didn't, this screen over here, this is the places that we have. This is the Nemo Teams at gmail.com, the email we're using for this. The chat feature on Ustream. If you want to tweet something to SMEM Training 15, that hashtag, we're also following that. And then down at the bottom, the bit.ly SMEM Training 15 is a link to a folder on our drive that has there's a monitoring roster sheet. Sorry, not monitoring. There is a monitoring. Don't use that. The rostering. Go to the roster. This is what the sheet looks like, and put your information in there. The yellow or green side, whatever you want to call that color, is for some of the exercises we're doing to be able to copy and learn to post tags and things like that. This comes in useful when we're doing monitoring. That's why we're having you practice this. For monitoring, tracking, that's what this is useful for. So we're just having you practice it in real time. Okay, so those who are online, make sure you're doing that. We're going to talk a little bit now about what we refer to as native tools. Remember how we talked to you, there's Twitter, there's Facebook, those are native tools. You go to that program to engage with it. Then there are third-party tools. Those are things like TweetDeck. Remember we told you TweetDeck is a dashboard that lets you bring in a lot of Twitter profiles to manipulate them and do them. There are a lot of third-party applications to deal with Twitter. Probably the most third-party applications. But we're going to talk a little bit about native applications. That is those things that you go to use. And I want to reiterate, there are a lot of tools. Every day there's a lot of new tools. So you're never going to be the master of all of them. You're probably not going to be the master of even a couple of them. Maybe if you're lucky, you'll be the master of one of them. Even just being good at a couple of them. So that's why we say pick some core ones. I would say if I had to pick core, it would be monitoring. Learn how to monitor. Because if you could never build anything, you could monitor. Next would be Twitter and Facebook. Twitter and Facebook would be the other two. And then it would be blogs. After that, it's all fun and games. Whatever you decide you want. Those are some core things. So those seem to be the backbone at the moment. It changes every day what people are using. So, but what you want to do, as I mentioned before, is practice with things that interest you, practice with personal groups, practice with family. That's where you do your practicing, is in your private life. And then you put the skills to use when you're actually at work. The point of these tools, to me, is to build community. Our research has shown that people in crisis, people in need, band together. They like to share their experience of what happened and what is happening to them and to their homes and to their community. And they need to do that. It's part of the catharsis. It's part of working their way through the crisis, whatever it might be. So part of what we're doing here is we're creating a community for them. We're saying, here's this Facebook page. Come and talk to each other. Now we're watching and we're going to answer your questions and we're going to participate in the conversation, but we're encouraging you to come and have your conversation here so that if we see issues, we can help you. Because we can't help you if you're scattered everywhere. Do you remember a long time ago, if any of you worked in fire long, when we wanted to see what was going on a fire, we clipped it out of the newspaper to see how we were doing. That was our monitoring. But what filter was that? That had a filter on it of what? Well, no, the media.
Yeah.
Well, if you clip it out of the newspaper, the media's, they're the filter of the information that you get. Now we have the ability to talk directly to people themselves, and we don't have that filter. And I mean, I think that's important. But in terms of building community, there are a lot of ways that we've been able to do it. And photos are one of them. Crowdsourced photos are one of them. That is, if you can gather, the idea, crowdsourcing just means that the crowd or the public that you're building this for is the one that supplies the information and content for that site. So for instance, in Haiti, there was a map built. It was a crowdsourced map, I believe built on what's called a Ushahidi platform. That crowdsourced map meant that people with things to offer, the people who had suffered in the earthquake posted, and people who needed things posted. So everything that was on there, all the content of this crowdsourced map was from the people using that content. Does that make sense to you? That's what crowdsourced is. It's provided by the users of the content. We've talked on my team a lot about how could we build a crowdsource something for fires. We haven't really found anything except photos. Creating a map or something where people can share photos. Creating space, even if it's a Instagram or a Flickr account where people can share photos. Letting them share photos on your Facebook page. Photos are the way that people, especially in fires and earthquakes and all kinds of things, share the experience that they're having. The Kenai Peninsula Borough, where I live, we're talking to them about potentially using geotagged. We talked about how you could turn on the location in your Twitter feeds. In order, and think about it this way: the borough that I live in is far flung. There's remote areas you can only fly to, etc. So when floods happen, which they do routinely when the snows melt, roads wash out. So the borough, which is centered back in Kenai, needs to know, well, what if you had people taking pictures that were geotagged and tweeting them? So I can now drop them back at the borough into my map and actually see what's happening on roads over in another part of the borough and know whether we need to fly dozers or what we need to do to help people. You could, for information like that, people can geotag the information they put out so that you know where to go help them. I will add that if you send any social media message that has a photo or a map, will spread 9,500,000 million times faster than any other one. People like to share maps and photos. So like I'm saying, photos are the way we work together. So if you really want your message to go, even if the photo isn't about the message, if I'm telling you something about, I want you to come to a community meeting for the fire, and I want you to share it, I'm going to attach a really great photo of the fire because I know you're going to share that a lot farther because of the photo. Photo tools are very easily linked into most of the platforms, Facebook, Twitter, blogs. The other thing is, remember, smartphones have made it simple. Anybody, click, classroom, upload. I mean, it's easy to do. So it's an easy way to get the public involved in how they're going to share their experience with each other. And, you know, if you're not asking people, could you write me an article on what it was like to go through the fire, you're just saying, could you just post a picture over here? They're more likely to do the picture. It's easy to do. And they're doing it anyway. Everyone's taking pictures of what they're experiencing. So they're more than happy to share those photos. And I think collectively, pictures that are taken by other people, by the community, they give you added credibility. You know, it's Bob Smith on his ranch took this picture. When we had fire in Colorado, we had a local rancher fly in a helicopter on one trip. He was a rancher and an outfitter. He flew and took some video, and then we posted his video on our Facebook page. And then we did an interview with him about what he thought. He goes, "You guys, it's not nearly as bad as you thought." We knew it wasn't as bad as people thought, but coming from me or coming from him, it was more important coming from him. And so sharing these kinds of videos, pictures, experiences is how you build that sense of community, and that's why they're important. We're going to go into Nathan with the tools, but the first tool we're going to talk about is Instagram. I wanted to just share with you something that I saw on Instagram, which I thought was a fabulous idea. There were a couple of, I know Twitter and Instagram, there may be more, that have things they call meetups or tweetups. That is, they gather people together to do something. A tweetup is where you ask people to come to a meeting where everybody puts faces with names. They meet all the people that they've been tweeting with in a group. We have called tweetups for a public meeting. And the idea is you have a tweet up for a public meeting about an hour before your public meeting starts. So all the people that have been, you say, you're inviting the people on Twitter to come to this thing and meet each other and meet you. You'd like to meet them face to face. And it matters because who normally comes to a public meeting? Happy people or mad people? Mad people come to public meetings. Happy people are like, it's all good, staying home. They don't come. Tweet up lets you sort of say, gathering a group that has nothing to do with happy or mad, but involved, and you bring them all there. Now, when they're all at my public meeting, I've kind of salted it with at least some of the people there, are not mad, hopefully. I have more of a balance there. And I've ensured myself that I have a bunch of people in the audience that are going to tweet out, hopefully, the facts we're presenting them at the meeting. Not me tweeting it, it's the community talking to the community. Does that make sense? Any questions about that? So Instagram had a thing at the White House. The White House has an Instagram account, and they did a tour of the White House gardens. So they said, we're going to do a meetup. So that people came to the White House gardens, the Instagram users, they called all their Instagram users, said, we're going to have a meetup at the White House gardens, come there. And like 35 people came, and they all in the gardens. All they had to do was take the tour and then post pictures of the White House gardens using the hashtag WHGardens. And they got all these wonderful pictures, and people reposted, and they got, just tons of things about the White House gardens. Now think about this. That what I do is I hear something like that, and I go, how could I use that to my advantage on a fire? There's something to that. I can tell there's something to what could I do with it. And I'm thinking, I know that there were some prevention people here. Think about if you're going to do prevention work in a community. And in that community, you have, maybe there's 5 or 6 houses that are fire-wise. All the work's been done, they look great. What's people's biggest fear about fire-wise in their house? It's going to look terrible. It's going to look like a golf course, right? Everyone thinks, there'll be no trees left, there'll be no grass, it'll be ugly. And that's not the case. So we have a meetup. We invite Instagram people to come, and we take a walking tour. And these people post pictures saying, I don't know, whatever, Maine prevents, or whatever hashtag you want to use, posting pictures of, in fact, what fire-wise lands and homes look like. They're posting them to their community, not you. I think there's real value in that. And at a fire, I can totally see we do camp tours all the time. What if I do it as a meetup? I bring everyone in, I say the hashtag is XYZ Fire Camp, post to that hashtag, and come on, let's go take pictures. And we go on a photo tour of fire camp. And we expect them to take these photos and share them. They're going to do it anyway. We might as well do it to our advantage. Take the picture, use the hashtag, and in the end, what do we have? We have a long stream of photos that we can now show people about what it's like to live in fire camp. And it's them talking to their community, not us talking to their community. So I see a lot of advantages to this. I'll let Nathan go ahead and finish talking about Instagram.
Okay. Was my screen being shared when we were just recently? Okay. One of the things that just happened as she was talking, I was trying to log into my Instagram account, and this is kind of I'm happy it happened because it gives us another training point. I'm normally logged in Colorado, so I just logged into my Instagram account here in Maine, and if those of you who were in the classroom saw it come up real quick, and then it kind of disappeared. And I was like, well, what just happened? What happened is, and many of your social media platforms will do this, and you need to be aware of this. They detected that I am no longer in Colorado and said, this sounds suspicious, and they shut me down. So I just got an email to my personal thing saying you need to reset your email or your account. So that's not unusual for that to happen, especially with Facebook. Facebook is doing it more and more often. If you get deployed to another area and you log into your Facebook account, it could send you a message and say, hey, we detected this suspicious thing, and you might have to send a text to your phone or something else. The other way that could become an issue is if you're logging into a page, if you only have 1 or 2 people, this is why you always want to have 1 or 2, 3, 4 people who have access to that page who could help you get back in if you get locked out. Because if you go to your incident and Facebook says you don't look like you're where you're supposed to be, we're locking you out, then somebody else can try to get you back in. So just keep that in mind and bear with me while I run through those steps right now to get my Instagram account back up. So first step I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to go back to my personal email account.
I should say, realize it's also not just social media. Have any of you tried to leave your primary area and go out of the country with your Visa card? People watch to make sure you're not being taken advantage of and that someone isn't hacking into your account, especially, with all the hacking that's going on. So it's a protection for you to make sure nobody's taken over your account. So worst thing that happens, you have to change your password.
Okay, and I have on my personal Gmail account, I have what's called two-step verification process. So when I log in from anywhere into my accounts, I get a text that's going to come to my phone that allows me to enter another system to just double verify that I am who I say I am. And many social media platforms will allow you to do double verification just like this, or two-step verification. All right, so here is all my secrets in my email account. This is the email that got sent to me. Password reset. We detected some suspicious activity on your account. That's what it's going to look like typically. And now I'm going to have to set a new password. Okay, my password has been reset. I'm going to write that down because I want to make sure that I don't forget that password. So, for Instagram, if you're using it on a web browser, you go to instagram.com to where you start, and then you log in. Keep in mind that we're going to be going through a number of different tools in this last segment, and we don't expect you to be memorizing or following along with every single thing. The specific tasks that we have for the exercise portion of this are much more general at the end, so this should be a little bit more of a sit back and kind of watch the show and learn some of the concepts and some of the things that you can do, as opposed to you need to scribble down right now and make sure you're memorizing everything that we do. Okay, so I am now into my Instagram account, and you'll see right away that this is a very, very limited platform in the sense that all I'm really seeing are pictures, and these are all pictures from accounts that I've followed. Just like your Facebook or Twitter home screen, you'll see it all right here. You've got hashtags that are stuck into here, right here. They're not clickable. I can't do anything with these right now, and that's because, let's see if it gives me some more choices when I come in here. Instagram is built primarily for the mobile device. They want you to go onto your phone, onto your tablet, and use Instagram on your mobile device. So I really can't do very much from here. I can see my home feed. I can go to my personal profile and kind of look and see a little bit of what's going on. You can see my kids, some pictures, blah, blah, blah. Right now they are probably waking up for their naps. So I can do a little bit, see a little bit of things going on here, but not much. Really, this is a mobile-based platform. So for today's training, I'm just going to open up a Google Doc that says I've been signed out, because I have been signed out, but luckily I'm signed back in. Sorry, that was me talking to myself. So what I've done is I've taken some screenshots to kind of give you an idea of what it looks like on your phone. You have to download it to your phone and start playing around to get the best idea. On your iPhone, it's going to look like this. You got your home feed. Here's a picture, and it's really hard to see because it's really small. But you can see each one of these names up here is a specific person who's been tagged in this photo. Someone is commenting on the photo. Back when I was in India, I grew up in northern India, just that's why that's there. And then you've got hashtags that are all right here. And if you were on your device, you would be able to click on this. I see a couple people coming into this. This document is in the Google Drive folder that we've shared with you, so if you'd like to access it directly, you can. So that's your home feed. That's what it's going to look like. This is what your personal profile is going to look like. And then over here, you can like a photo. And in Instagram, you're clicking on a little heart. That's what you do. When you do that, you'll see something that looks just like this. You see how this one has a little video icon up here? You can have video on Instagram now. We didn't get to it on Twitter, but you can have video on Twitter now. If you have the mobile app, you can do up to 30 seconds in a post on Twitter with video, which is kind of neat. Just like on Twitter, when you can follow somebody and unfollow them, you follow people here on Instagram. You check that little checkbox and you follow them. Hashtags, same thing, just like Twitter, they work on Instagram as well. Here I typed in Vail and I got a whole bunch of posts that showed up. Here, again, there's the difference between a hashtag and a username. So when you do a search on the mobile app, you can search for specific users that are talking about Vail or the hashtags about Vail. So keep those things in mind. Some neat, interesting things that you can do. So you got this photo here. You can see how many people have liked it. Again, that's the little heart shape. If you zoomed in here, you'd see a little heart. And it would, once you click on it, it would turn red to show that you have liked it. And you can see the comment stream underneath it. From your app, you're able to do a number of different things. You can share that photo to Facebook. You can tweet it out. You can copy the URL, do a couple of different things so that you can be sharing information cross-platform. By cross-platform, I mean you're on your Instagram account and you're sending it to Facebook, you're sending it to Twitter, you're sending it to Tumblr or someplace else.
That's your own account,
Correct.
not being on somebody else's Instagram and sending it to your family.
Well, in this case, this is a photo that somebody else put up there that I would be trying to share. Okay. But you could also set it up. The question is about what can you do on your own account. You could set it up so that when you send an Instagram or make an Instagram post, it auto sends it to Facebook and Twitter. There are some pros and cons as to why you would do that, and we'll get into that a little tomorrow. Instagram does allow you to map some of your photos. So you can either have all of your photos be pinned to a map that you can see on your device, or you can just pick and choose and say, I want this photo to show up on my map. A nifty little tool if you want to show where you're going and whatnot. Over here, so here are your share settings. I was talking about how you could set it up so you can automatically share to other accounts. These are all the different platforms that the iPhone Instagram app allows you to share to: Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Flickr, Foursquare, which is kind of a check-in, check-out app, and then a couple of other languages. If you have an Android device, the interface is very similar. I won't go through all that, but it's practically the same. So Instagram, key things to remember here are the hashtags are crucial. You will have a photo with as many hashtags as people could think of, and that is to get that photo to go to other audiences and to see have other people see it. You can really get away with a lot of hashtags on Instagram. People do it all the time because when you're scrolling through the feed, you don't actually see the hashtag. You will just see the pictures, and if you click on the picture, you'll see all the different content that's related to it. But your feed, for the most part, is going to be just photos, and so that other hashtag information is going to be in the background. So use hashtags to your advantage in that situation. And use, like we talked about earlier, use this as a tool to allow you to go type in hashtags and other key terms to see what other people are posting. So even if you as an agency aren't activating this Instagram account to post actively to, use it to monitor what other people are saying and see what's going on. It's a powerful tool for that. Instagram is one of the most rapidly growing accounts that are out there right now, and it's very, very popular in Colorado. When we have sporting events, people use Instagram a lot, and there are other tools that we'll talk about later on where you can use your web browser to optimize some of the searchings. So I'm going to show you a tool called Iconosquare and a tool called GramFeed, where you can type in the searches on your computer, and not only can you see the images pop up, but you will also be able to see images on a map as to where they're geolocated, which is a nifty little option. But we'll get to that a little tomorrow. That's pretty much everything I wanted to show you on Instagram right now. Again, you got to get it on your phone and play with it to get the best experience with it. The next thing that before I move on, do we have any questions on Instagram? Sir.
Messages that you can put, the text you can put, is that limited in number of characters? Or?
I believe the text is limited on the characters. I don't know how severe.
It seemed like you were able to put more text in.
Yeah, I believe you are allowed to put more, but does anybody know the answer? I know there's probably some more familiarity in the room. I believe it's more than what Twitter allows you, but it's still going to be somewhat limited.
Okay.
Yeah. Other questions? Okay, I'm going to go jump over to Flickr now, which is going to be flickr.com, Flickr.com. And again, you can see here it's trying to get you over to the iPad, because really these photos of apps services are really, really powerful tools for mobile devices. But Flickr also has a robust online presence here, and it's hosted by Yahoo. Let's see if I can remember my password on this one, and hopefully it doesn't do anything to lock me out. Okay, so Flickr is a tool that Instagram is a tool that I would recommend you use to monitor and to post pictures of your incident here and there. Flickr is where I would say you would come and post your complete photo album to publicly be available for others to see and download. A couple reasons why you would want to use Flickr as opposed to Facebook or some other tool is Flickr really keeps the quality of the image there, and people can download the image at various levels of quality. If you send them to a Facebook album, Facebook is really going to take that image and downgrade the quality in order to put it up there. So bring that whole album over to Flickr. You can upload entire albums at a time, and it's actually a very, very neat little tool. So demonstrate that. You can come over here where you've already logged in. You can see I follow Sewer Emergency, which is a Flickr account, and so I have my home feed here just like any other feed. Okay, come over here to this little icon over here, and that's not what I wanted to do. I want to go over here. Sorry, my bad. I'm going to come over here to upload. And this is where you start to upload photos and videos. You can either click, drag your photos and videos right over here, or there's a little button that says add. And for just demonstration purposes, I'm going to bring in our fire information photo that we had before. Okay, we had an answer come in on the question about character limits. So it looks like we have, is that 2,200 characters limit on Instagram,
Post.
200 on an original post, and 240 characters on an Instagram comment is the answer that one of the users gave us. Whoever provided that answer, thank you very much. So you can I only brought in one photo here. You could literally bring in hundreds of photos at a time if you wanted to. And right from here, you can add descriptions to these photos, add people to them, add tags. You can create albums and add them to an album if you like. You can set the settings here. This is an important thing to keep in mind. What kind of a copyright are you assigning these photos? You can set them so that you reserve all the rights, which is what it is right now. It's kind of the default. Or I can come in here, and it's hard to see. Let's see if I can make it bigger. And that really doesn't help us. Well, sort of. None. All rights reserved. Attribution, non-commercial, share alike, Creative Commons. Creative Commons essentially means that we're putting this photo out there and others can use it in various forms. And that's, there's different permissions, but when you hear that term Creative Commons, it should be a cue that you might be able to use this, but you still need to go back and make sure you're understanding the specific license underneath that. We'll talk a little bit more about that here in a second. See how many there's like 7 different types. Or you could upload this and have it only visible to you. So you could use it as your personal photo storage if you prefer it that way. There's a better snapshot of all the different licenses. I'll show you how this is really important. This is really a neat tool when you're actually looking for photos and videos, because you can search for Creative Commons content that then you can use. You don't want to ever be in that situation where you've searched for content and you've used content and you don't have the rights to that content. Just because you found it on the internet does not mean you have the rights to use that image. Flickr allows you to search for those images you do have rights to use. Sometimes you have to provide attribution, sometimes you don't have to provide attribution, it just depends. Okay? From here, you would then upload this photo. And it says, apparently I set it to private. Let's go ahead and change that. When I continue editing, we're going to change this visible to public just for kicks and giggles. I'm going to make this, what kind of a Creative Commons would you normally do with this, with image? Anything? Attribution Creative Commons, just for fun. I'm going to add a description here, and I can add in here official fire logo.
I'm gonna blow that up a little.
Yeah.
It's hard to see that side.
Okay. And this is where you can add your tags. Again, you can add as many tags as you want. The difference here is you don't have to put in that pound sign if you don't want to. You can simply just start typing. So now I've tagged this with SMEM Training 15. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and upload this photo. So it's telling me that I've made a couple changes to it. I've made it public, I've added the tag, and I've given attribution. I've changed the user permissions on here. Upload. Now, if you had uploaded 500 photos at a time, that would have taken a while. So just be aware of that. The system is typically robust as long as your internet connection is strong enough. It typically can handle that, something of that nature, but it also depends on how powerful your computer is. So be aware of those things.
Is there any limit on size of the photo? Or
I personally have not come up into a limit. Obviously, the larger the photo is, the longer it's going to take to upload. Okay, so let's show you how you deal with other people's content on here. It's not loading everything for some reason. But let's say that you're on Flickr, not just to post your own images, but you want to find other people's images. You got the handy dandy search bar over here. Let's search for, what was it, Iditarod?
Mm-hmm. I did,
I-D-I-T.
A-R-O-D.
I'm going to try to type in Iditarod in here because we searched that earlier, and we see all these photos. So right now, though, all of these photos, I can see them. That's sorted by relevant everybody's photos. I could limit this search to just my own photos. So say you uploaded thousands of photos, you could be searching for your own photos here. This could be a great tool to manage your own photos. Your contacts photos, so just like anything else, you can have friends and contacts in here that you're sharing information with. People in groups, we won't get into all of that settings, but you could search specific groups if you set them up. And here's the license piece. So right now, you got all these images up here, but you don't know if you can use any of these. You can search Creative Commons only now. Give it a chance to refresh, and now you see photos that you can use in some iteration. Okay? You can be even more specific and say, I want to be able to modify this photo. Give it a chance to think. Maybe. And maybe we already can see all this. So it doesn't look like it once I made that selection, it didn't change anything for these photos. A little bit more information though. Let's click on this specific link or image. Now you have the image up top and you have a lot of information about that image down beneath. So this is shared by the Bureau of Land Management. So they have fittingly allowed us to have permission to this photo. How nice of them. Okay, so I can, here you can see where I can follow them, add them to my contacts, etc. This is giving you all sorts of information about the photo, when it was taken and what cameras, etc., whether the flash was on or off, all that fun stuff is loaded in there. They have a whole bunch of tags. You see how many they've added in here? Notice there are no pound signs in this one. There's no need to add the pound sign.
And those tags, those are, I'm just going to turn on my microphone if I don't already have it on. Do I have it on?
That the idea is that those tags are things, anything you think people would search
Yep.
for that photo, but however they might search for it, dog, Alaska trail, whatever, sleds, you got to think out, what kind of tags would people want to search for?
Yep, and no harm, no foul in adding as many as you want. Okay, now here is where they have reserved some rights. So we did a Creative Commons search on this, and they've reserved some rights. So you can click on that, and now you can find out the specific license that they've posted this underneath. So you are free to share, copy, and redistribute this material in any medium or format. Adapt, you can remix, transform, or build upon the material for any purpose, even commercially. So that's the attribution setting. However, you must do under these following terms. You must give appropriate credit, provide a link to the license, and indicate if changes were made. So that's all that they're asking you to do if you use this image.
And I'm also going to throw this out here. One of the people online had said that when you enter more than one word as a search, you have to put it in quotes. I believe that's called a Boolean search. When you want to say sled dog and it's 2 words, you have to put quote sled, then dog, then quote, in order to get those 2 appear together. Otherwise, you get everything that says sled and everything that says dog. You could get the Westminster Dog Show pictures will show up in there because it's got the word dog. So putting quotes around it if it's more than one word. So thank you to the online audience for continuing to keep us.
Yeah, each search function, many of them will respect what's called Boolean search terms, where I can come in here and I can say sled dog in quotation marks, so I catch the whole thing, or I could try something different. I want only those that have the tag sled and dog, or I could search for sled or dog, and you see how it changes ever so slightly. So you want to get creative in how you search for things. That's really the lessons that you have there. Any questions up to this point on Flickr? So with each one of these photos, you can engage with them if you like. You see how there's a star down here? I can hit star and add this photo to my favorites feed. I can actually hit the comment feed and participate in comments and talk back and forth. So you could either use this again to build community on your site, on your photos, to have people encourage them to come talk and engage with you on the photos you've posted, or you could be engaging other people on the photos they have posted. Okay? Yes. Okay. Let's see. One thing I want to show you is we often use Flickr for creating photo albums. Yes, fire away.
Signing up for Flickr, you could only use it with a Yahoo account?
Flickr is a Yahoo service, correct. So you have to have a Yahoo account to go through it.
The service that's associated with Google is Picasa.
Mm-hmm.
Picasa is a Google product. Picasa is a little more complicated to use. So yeah, you'd have to have this one Yahoo email if that's what you want, because you're going to need an email. You have to have a Yahoo account to do it. So that's why you end up with this giant page of passwords and emails. But really, Flickr is the only one that's a fairly simple tool that you can't use your Gmail account to sign up for. Just about everything else you can. So it's really the only one. It's just a little easier to use than Picasa, but you can use Picasa, and you can do the auto loading from your Google Plus page up to Picasa, and all that can be very automatic if you want to use it. It just take a little more time to learn.
If we have time today, we may bring up Picasa, but we have a couple other tools that we want to show. But Picasa is a very powerful tool if you use it correctly. If you don't use it correctly, it can be a very confusing tool. Okay, let's see. What else was I going to show? I was going to show SlideShare before we move on. A slideshow, because very often we want to do a slideshow and put it up on your blog or some other place. So this is where I'm going to find an album. This is where you need to have an album created, and I have not created my own album, so I'm going to go search for somebody else's album. I'm going to type in CO Emergency in here because I know that there is a username called CO Emergency with the state of Colorado. Notice how nothing showed up. Well, I know that there's a user for this. I need to come into here and say, I want to search for people, not for photos. Now I found the person, CO Emergency. I can click on them, and here's their page. You can see I'm following them. I can click on their albums, and let's just go for, let's see, what album do I want? How about Colorado Floods 2013? Here's a nifty little trick that you can do here, because like many things, platforms are always changing, and there used to be a much easier way to just go and get this to be a slideshow. I did some research for this class, and excuse me, apparently all you have to do is come up here to this URL, and after the backslash, type in show. Hit enter. Now, I have a slideshow. Not only do I have a slideshow, but if you come up here to the share option, I have the URL to this slideshow, and I have the HTML code, which I can then take this HTML code, bring it over to our Blogger account, stand by while it loads, and I'm in the wrong account here, so let's sign out. And make sure I get this password right. Third time's the charm, right?
You wrote it on a piece of paper, Nick.
I did.
Now, which one was that again? You wrote 20 on
There we go.
there.
Let's skip through all this, blah, blah, blah. I'm already logged in now. Go back to blogger.com. Here's my blog. I'm going to say I'm going to write a new post. I'm going to go ahead and say slideshow. Now, remember, I copied over HTML code, so I need to switch over from the Compose tab to the HTML tab. I don't need to know any HTML, but I need to switch over, copy that in there,
You just pasted it.
copied and pasted it in there. I'm working fast here. I'll show you again. I came over here, I added show to the album URL. I went over to the share button here, found the embed code already in here. I copied that over to my clipboard. If I want to get really fancy schmancy, I can customize this HTML. We're not going to do that. Come on over here to Blogger. I'm making a new post. Go to the HTML and paste in the HTML code. I can preview this then. Here's the slideshow is going to run right here. So that's what it's going to look like.
And that's, I just want to say, that's if you want to embed this as a post in the center. If you
Correct.
want that show to run a long time. Remember when you went to the layout part of Blogger? Remember you opened layout and it showed all the little gadgets? You open that gadget page, there's a gadget that says HTML code. You open the HTML gadget, open it, do the same thing. Dump the code in, give it a title, it'll show up on your blog wherever that little gadget is. Or you can move the gadgets around where you want them, but it's easy enough to make it. So then it's permanently part of your blog on the side. It's not in the middle. The middle part will scroll off as you post more blog things. That'll go away. This will stay there for good. So as you add to it, there's always new pictures.
You can resize it.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
obviously we need to do some formatting here, but you can I can either resize my whole blog or I can resize this little widget itself. So that's what the way you can play with Flickr and get a slideshow onto your page there. There's a lot more wonderfully powerful things that you could do with Flickr, but that's all we're going to show for now because we want to move on to Pinterest. Before we do that, do we have any questions from this room or the audience? Online. I will give it up to you.
Just pull. I only need this one. Just two things.
Just a question.
Yes.
In Flickr, if you highlight a picture, can you do a copy and paste of that one picture directly?
Okay, so I guess I skipped over how to actually, what you would do to this. Let's get out of the show here. So if I clicked on that picture, what do you want to do with it next?
Let's say I wanted that picture to use for an email once.
Okay, so you want to use this picture. So you've already checked and see what kind of permissions you have to use this, right? You come over here to this icon here, it's a download.
Oh, you can download it?
And now, the reason I like Flickr is it gives you option. How big of a file do you want?
Okay.
Do you want the original? Do you want a smaller size, etc.?
So if you're sending it on your phone, you might want a smaller size. If you're posting it on somewhere it's going to be bigger and permanent, you might want a bigger size. If you're emailing it where someone might blow it up, maybe you want the biggest original size.
You may want a screensaver or something.
Right.
Could be. Yep. Good question.
Okay, so I'm just going to take 5 minutes to tell you about Pinterest. And anybody who knows me out there in La La Land knows it. Pinterest is an addiction. So I'm going to keep this short, but remember, I use tools personally to discover what their value is to me professionally. So I kept hearing about Pinterest, and it kept becoming more and more popular, and I didn't know what it was. So here's my little research on Pinterest. You know how they're called what? Entomologists? Insect people? Bug? They pin bugs to boards. It was an entomologist that invented Pinterest. He said, if I can take beetles and pin them to one board, and flies and pin them to another board, and butterflies and pin them to this board, what if I could go on the internet and pin things I was interested in to boards of a specific interest, right? So a couple of things happened. That little, up in the upper left-hand corner where you see the little red pin, you can now get that, when you download Pinterest, it shows up on your page. So if I'm searching the internet and I see something I like, I click the little pin. I can pin what I see on the page to a Pinterest board. I'm looking at everything. You can search for anything you want. So somebody give me something like that they're interested in, just like a hobby.
Fishing.
Fishing. Okay. Type in fishing. So anything you want to search for, it will search for the term, and you will find everything you ever dreamt of about fishing. Now, if you want fishing bass, or you could type that in, it will allow you to do a string of words.
Oops.
And you can make it just say fishing, and if you just put bass in there, it'll give you two little blue blocks. One says fishing, one says bass. But once you start looking for things, you create an account and you start looking for things, it's astonishing the kind of stuff that you will find yourself addicted to looking for on here. If you go back to that original Pinterest account. Okay, now this is, I'm going to show you on my Pinterest account. Go over to click on Chris. Here are the boards I've created. Not to share all my stuff, but clothes, house ideas, wine, books I want to read, just amazing pictures when I find them of really cool vacation places, gardening, party food, drinks, you know. I just create a board. As I find something, I create a board. So I can go look in any one of those. I just store things there. And I have, I don't know, 32 some. You can make as many boards as you want. So I'm looking at this thinking, well, how could I use this on an incident? They started a really cool thing. You can now create a secret board that you can store stuff on, but no one else can see. So I said to myself, there must be a way to utilize this on a fire. So here's what my thought was. What Pinterest does when you open up one of those, it doesn't matter, whichever one. Okay, recipes I've made. I was making chocolate. Okay. These are recipes I made. So you open up, these are all the things that I pinned on there. I can very easily share these things. You know how to share them. I come up to one of these and there's my choice. I can send it to someone, or I can edit what I write underneath it. So if I added something or did something different on the recipe, and I can send it to somebody easily and to their Pinterest account. It'll show up on theirs or by an email. If I'm just searching in general and I hover over something, that little pin it will come up. Now these I've already pinned, so I don't need to repin it. But if I was just going on the internet, or I was just searching everything or popular or fishing, I could pin anyone I wanted. If I want to pin it but I haven't created a board and I go, I need a new board for that, right there I can create a new board and I can pin it to that board. But what it does is all of these things, if you've done this right, all of these things are related to the subject. All of these things are things that are recipe. Okay, so what if I created an account that was Portland Nemo, and then every fire I went to, I created a board. XYZ Fire is this board. And on that board, I pinned the INSEE page, the Facebook page, the Instagram account, the Flickr account, everything I had, I pinned to that board. Because the audience that is growing on Pinterest daily, and trust me, it's an addiction, they will use Pinterest over anything else. They now just have to pin my board, and they have immediate access to all of the things that I have, all in one board, in a format that they want to use. Remember, we're bringing it to them where they live, not forcing them to come to us. I will bring the information to you. And as long as I pin everything on there, they're good to go. Now then, when you scroll to the bottom, actually we have to go back off this board to the secret board. What could we use the secret board for? Any thoughts? Come on.
Personal notes.
Personal notes, except you got to be able to pin something off the internet. So you could pin something that was stored in your drive. What?
To your team?
You could store, if there was something of interest to your team, I might store
The secret.
on the secret board. But here's my thinking. As a PIO, what could I use it for?
You can use documents, updates.
You could store your daily updates, but normally we store them on a hard drive, but what if we just shoved them all over on there? But remember, what you're storing is a link.
Right, you could store what people write about the fire.
Yes, you could go news clips. You could store news clips, you were saying?
I was thinking you could store the information that you're monitoring because it's not accurate without sharing it.
Exactly. You could store, and that is what I said you could use it, was thinking you could use it for, was documentation. We have to document. Now, whether you choose, you could make several secret boards. Maybe one is media coverage. Maybe one is people with issues in the community, like bad posts in the community. You could have a board for that. You can make as many boards as you want and sort your information. What you have to remember is that, and we'll get into this in monitoring, it's a picture of a URL. That's all. Instead of saving a link, it's saving a picture of a link. So you remember what it's about without even going to. It's just a cooler way to store a link. But eventually, for documentation purposes, you're probably going to have to open it. And you're going to have to print it if that turns out to be something you want to save. But it is a way that the secret boards are not shared with anyone. So your internal team, you can share this with them, and they can all see the secret board, and they can all store stuff on there without sharing it to somebody else. So I just found a tool and said, okay, this is a cool thing. You have to experiment with it enough to figure out, does it look like it's got an application of what we need in the field? And because it's becoming so popular. And I think we found a cool way to do it, that people who really like Pinterest can use it.
Anything else on Pinterest?
Nope.
Okay. It's a fun, neat tool. Again, this is one where you can actually have some fun while practicing for work, where you play with it. Play with it, and make sure it works. Something to keep in mind, one of the limitations is what you're pinning is an image. And so when you try to pin a website, it's going to search for an image on that website. And if there is no image on that website for it to pin, you may have issues pinning that site. So that's a potential limitation for using it. But it's a great place. A lot of people have been using it for emergency preparedness information. This is a great place to post infographics. If I do a search on
have some on mine.
do you have a,
Just go to the bottom under work.
there we go.
And that's where I store infographics, which you'll see
There's
some tomorrow.
all sorts of lovely infographics that you can see. Pinterest is full of them. Great stuff there. We have about 10 more minutes. Within those 10 minutes, I would like to just give you a little bit of understanding on two platforms. I'm thinking Tumblr and Reddit. I don't expect you to memorize anything that I'm going to show you right now, but I want you to be able to see it just so you have some understanding of what the tool is. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and get out of Pinterest here, and let's see if I can figure out how to log Chris out so that I don't pin all sorts of fun things to your page. Okay, Tumblr. It's spelled TUMBLR.com. And this is another blogging option. It's some people have described it as a cross between a Twitter account and a blog. And you'll see a little bit why after I sign in here. You can sign in using a Facebook account if you'd prefer. I'm going to log in using my personal account here. And here you can see, just like anything else, you have a feed. It's actually looks kind of similar to your Instagram feed, if you will. Now keep in mind, we're seeing stuff that's public and whatnot, so we've already crossed some language that isn't PG and whatnot. On some of these platforms, you're going to get some of that. And since we're doing things live, I apologize in advance if we see anything else. But from right here, you can add text. Notice how you don't really have a lot of space here for text, but you have quite a bit of space. So it's kind of like a blog in the sense that you can write a lot, but really they want good photos and stuff to be showing up in here. So if I wanted photos, let's get out of this, close this. You can come and add a photo, upload photos from the web, etc. Give quotes. You could put a quote in here from other people and as source. Add a link, just like anything else. You go in, find that link. Let's see. I copy that link, it's going to give you a bit of a preview. Okay, so this is kind of a mix between a blog post and a Twitter account. The reason it's kind of a mix is because I'm going to discard this. Let's see if I can find some photo post about, let's try just Maine. Portland, Maine. Let's see what shows up. Okay, so here's some awesome images of some dirty snow. Excellent stuff. I can hit this button down here. Doesn't that look awful lot like the retweet icon on Twitter? Instead of retweeting it, I'm reblogging it. So I'll hit that button and it will go onto my site. Reblogged. What's that?
Tumblr site?
On my Tumblr site, correct. It's going to go reblog onto my Tumblr site. Okay, so that's what you can do there. Just like on Twitter, Instagram, or any place else, you can like this image, etc. You've got all sorts of options up here. So it's a good monitoring tool to see what other people are saying. So just give you a little bit of quick oversight as to Tumblr. It's used primarily by a younger audience. So if you're trying to reach a younger audience, this might be a tool that you might try to play with and use a little bit. And it's actually a very simple interface once you start playing with it. Any questions on this tool? I'm not going to spend much more time showing you anything else, but it's right there. And you can, just like many other tools, just like Instagram, post to Tumblr and then have it cross-post to Facebook, Twitter, someplace else. Okay, Reddit is another tool that I really think you should have some interface on, some understanding, because it has been described, or it's self-described, as the front page of the internet. It's also been described as, if you want content to go viral, it needs to be on Reddit so people can upvote it and downvote it. I'll show you what that means. So the website is reddit.com, reddit.com. I'm going to go ahead and sign in. Okay, you can see here it's not nearly as pretty of an interface. It's very text heavy and it's a little bit difficult to get to understand when you're first looking at it. But basically you can see there's posts here and you've got these up and down arrows. So let's try to find some content related to our field. So let's go with SMEM. I'm searching SMEM. There's actually what's called a subreddit for social media for emergency management. I know it's there because I created the subreddit many years ago. And what you would do for proof of conscience here is you post a link, a proof of concept here. You post a link and then users upvote that or downvote it. And the more upvotes it gets, the more popular it becomes and the more viral it becomes. And so if you're on an incident and content is being shared about your incident and it's getting upvoted, that could be a good thing or a bad thing depending on what this link is going to, because this link could be a story, a positive news story, it could be a negative news story. It could be a link to an individual who is using Reddit to kind of do a live blog of what's going on in your incident, updates on what's going on. And it's good to have somebody keeping an eye on this so you can see what links are being upvoted and downvoted. A good monitoring tool. You could even go so far as to create an account and submit your own links so that people are upvoting them and downloading your content as opposed to somebody else's content. Does that make sense? Any questions on Reddit? Very simple overview.
Are you using it to monitor and track what happens to a link you're interested in, or do the links appear on here when they're active? I mean,
so basically you're doing it, if you're using it as a monitoring tool, I'm going to come in here and start searching whatever it is. So if I'm on a fire, or let's say I'm looking for stuff, recently we did the Vail 2015 ski championships. So I'm going to start typing in here Vail 2015 and just start seeing what shows up. Give it a chance to think. And you'll start seeing all sorts of different things. Each one of these is a subreddit up here, which you might compare to a hashtag, if you will, a community. It's a topic that people are uniting on, and you can see what people are posting. And here, somebody's giving away a free lift ticket. No way to use it. Upvoted, downvoted. Need advice. World championships. So here you can see what links other people have shared, and you can see what people are doing with them. There are also many other things on here that people will talk about. Let's go to Yellowstone here, subreddit Yellowstone. And so this is actually a fancy schmancy page created by a user, I believe. I'm not too familiar with this, and it gives them information about Yellowstone. So you might want to be following to see if Yellowstone was near you, or if you were responsible for Yellowstone. Is this information correct? It's kind of like a Wikipedia type thing. Okay, so I personally don't have a lot of experience with Reddit, and I'm not saying that you have to have a lot of experience with Reddit. I just need you to know that these tools are out there and people are using them. For instance, during a couple incidents in Colorado, Reddit became on our radar because individuals were posting they were going onto the internet, finding the live radio feeds of responders, and then they would come in here on their Reddit feeds and start posting all that information. So we wanted to keep that information, keep tabs on that. So what is it posting? Good information, bad information? And if I recall correctly, it was fairly accurate information that was being shared, but it's something that you want to watch as part of your overall monitoring process.
Why would someone post it to Reddit versus Twitter?
Because they want to, it's the tool that they choose to use. So they may choose to use Reddit versus Twitter for whatever reason. This is again going to be a little bit of a younger clientele that's going to choose to use this. They may choose to do it to both. They may post it on their Twitter account and then they come over here to Reddit and post it on here because they want to try to get that link out to another audience to make it go viral.
Someone's asking, are there bad links on Reddit? Spam, virus?
There are all sorts of bad links on Reddit. There are all sorts of bad links on Tumblr. There are all sorts of bad links on Flickr. You can get yourself into the mud and into the dark side of the internet real quickly on pretty much any of these tools. Some tools are better than others. Twitter and Facebook you can avoid some of the nastiness of the web, but any of these tools, you're going to get down into some of the uglier side of the internet. But unfortunately, sometimes our job, if we're assigned to monitoring and seeing what people are saying, sometimes that's someplace you have to go. And we'll talk a little bit more about this later, but now we're going into what's called, the trend is now for anonymous apps. It kind of started out with Snapchat, where you could send information back and forth and the message would disappear. Now we're sending messages on Yik Yak, where there is no account other than your phone. Your phone is your account. You're sharing that message with other people, not based off of friendships, but based off of your geolocation. And that level of anonymity is taking us to a whole new level of human behavior, in my opinion. Something else that we can have to watch, and if we have time, we may show you how to do some Yik Yak monitoring later on a different time. Any other questions that we have? So for the training portion of this, the practice portion, we really wanted you to just kind of pick a platform, pick a couple other platforms if you'd like, and start playing around with them. Create an account, download Instagram to your phone, create a Flickr account and upload a couple photos. Maybe try to go onto Flickr and try to find yourself a couple Creative Commons photos that you are able to share. Copy over one of those links to one of those photos and put it into our workbook if you like, or on your blog, or you could take that link and put it on your Twitter account. Really, this is your time to play with whatever you want to play with. We don't really have, I do have a list that you can walk through if that helps you out, but I want you to now just take what we've told you and absorb it and play with it and go forth. So with that ends our training on a few extra native tools that you can learn. While you're playing and practicing, we will be around for quite, how much longer will we be around on the live stream piece to answer questions, etc.?
We'll be here till 5.
Till 5. We will remain available till 5 Eastern time to answer questions on the Ustream chat, answer questions on the Nemo teams@gmail.com email account, and we will also keep an eye on the SMEM Training 15 hashtag on Twitter as well. So go forth and practice and play. Tomorrow we will start back up promptly at 8 o'clock Eastern time, 8 o'clock Eastern time.
Do you have to have a Flickr account to look at pictures or to get pictures?
Let's check it out.
You can just go to Flickr.
The question was, do you have to have a Flickr account to get into Flickr? I believe you do. Let me sign out here if I can remember how to sign out. It's over here. So let's see. It's going to let me do a search without signing in, so that's a good sign. Yeah, you can play along without having an account, it looks like.
Okay, so you have whatever time you want to take to the end of the day, and
I'll put up that checklist if you want to proceed through it, but again, this is your time to do with as you would like.
you could join Instagram on your phone. It really is a phone-friendly app. I've tried. It's impossible on my computer. It's meant for the phone, and you could take pictures in here and upload a hashtag SMEM if you want to.
Instagram, what account do you have to have for that?
Instagram.
Just use your
Right.
use your Gmail. And
Oh, you can use Gmail?
yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
why does my daughter, when she shows me something, say, don't touch it?
You mean on your computer?
On the
phone?
On the phone.
Because as soon as you touch your phone, you go, oh, look at that. It's going to click over to something. It's going to move. It's going to. So don't. If someone's showing
If
you
she
something.
says something like, that don't mean that I like it.
Yeah, okay, I know where you're coming from.